And the original Agile Manifesto, as I explained before, is really balanced, right? It's important for us to think about this deeply because the Agile Manifesto, even if we have Agile 2 and Agile 3 and God only knows what other words people will come up with for future theories of how to do all this stuff, but the ground level concept here is that we're trying to figure out how to work with each other better and how to help people work more effectively. And so thinking about the items on the right and the left as polarities really shifts our thinking about it, that we go back and forth, right? So we need comprehensive documentation and we need working software. If we had to choose one and we only got one choice, we would choose working software, but it's never like that in real life. We don't just get one choice, right? We need some documentation and we need the software to work, and we need some documentation, both for our customers perhaps, or for new hires to our organization, or for, I don't know, whatever reason. Maybe it's compliance with laws, but you need that documentation, and it's not a bad or a good thing. It just, you have to have enough, right? You can't spend all your time documenting everything because then you won't have working software. So that's what I mean when I say, we're trying to bring back balance and thinking about things as being polarities rather than thinking about them as being opposites. And so what we chose to do with the values is to make them both and statements. Now, the original statements were modeled just after the original manifesto statements, and we started to fall into that same old trap where it was a good thing and a bad thing. And so then we shifted our thinking and decided, let's really think of this as polarities instead. And for me personally, where this idea came up was several years ago. I took an improvisation for Agile class from an Agile coach who is a former improvisational actor who used to act professionally on stage. And my key takeaway from that wonderful experience was thinking about both and thinking. And as Agilists, one of our hardest jobs is to hold paradox. And the more I've learned about engineering and DevOps, the more I've seen that it's also true at the advanced levels of computer software engineering, is that you need to allow it to be possible for two superficially contradictory things to both be true. And maybe it's not even superficially, right? Maybe it's just they really seem like they can't both be true. But sometimes there's partial truth to each of them, and there's value in thinking about both of them, and it's not a choice between them, right? So when we put together our values, we use this and format. And let me explain this. Our first one is thoughtfulness and prescription. And here what we mean is it's important to think about the context. You need to understand things before you choose to act, and be thoughtful. And you need to help inexperienced people get going with prescription. Sometimes inexperienced people, they don't need to know and understand every little detail before they can get going. So sometimes it's helpful for them to be prescriptive and say, okay, here's how we're going to do it just for our first go around, right? Because those folks will be supported best with guidance. Another place where I've seen prescription work really well is when there's a serious crisis and very senior engineers need to step in and provide some guidance about how to solve the production outage, and need to be very clear and prescriptive in a way with less experienced people who are somewhat, experiencing maybe more panic and really don't know what to do. So there are environments where being prescriptive is perfectly appropriate, and we need to do it thoughtfully and do it at the appropriate time. We value outcomes and outputs. We constantly hear it's all about good business outcomes or other kinds of desired outcomes. But you don't get outcomes without outputs. So they both matter. And it's not necessarily wrong to measure outputs, but they need to be the ones that are going to lead you to the outcomes that you seek. They're both important. We value individuals and teams. Now, in the Agile space, it's all about teams. But with Agile 2, individuals are also really important. Teams are made up of individual humans and what people need and their working styles, their preferences, their growth, their career development. These things are all really important. And team spirit is very important. So neither is one more important than the other, but at various points in time or depending on the context in various groups of people, one might be more important than the other. But in general, we want to have them in balance. Now, business understanding and technical understanding. Personally, this is my favorite. To succeed today, technology people really need to understand the business. And they need to, so that they can do good work. They have to make so many decisions throughout the day, large and small. And they will make better decisions if they have a strong understanding of the business context and the business need for whatever it is that they're doing. And business leaders really need to understand and learn about the technology. Now, I've worked with people who say business leaders really don't need to do that because they can just hire good tech people to support them and have them go to it. But if business leaders hope to get the best from their tech teams, they really need to understand how the technology is built, how the technology is delivered. They don't have to become engineers. They don't have to learn the language, the programming languages, and they don't need to learn all the jargon, but they do need to understand enough about what's going on that they can have healthy conversations with their tech leaders, and the two of them can work collaboratively to solve really big problems and achieve their business goals.